because I don't have the money. All right, it says you're live, Ridbook, so hopefully we are live.
I hope so.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chronicles of Narnia Talk. Oops. Yes, I do have the YouTube open. I forgot to mute it. Narnia Talk with Ridbook and Andy Smith. Hello, everybody. We have not talked about what this intro would be at all. I'm realizing as I'm talking about this. Hello, I'm Andy. Who are you, other person?
I am Ridbook. I was going to try and do something funny, but I was like, no, we didn't do enough. We didn't do enough.
This is going to be a great stream if every time Rid thinks, I'm going to do something funny, she thinks, no.
I'm just going to play it straight. I am enamored by that box set that you have. Have you always had that?
I just got it about 2 months ago. Did you steal
it from your bookshelf?
I did, as normal. Where I get cool stuff is I steal it from my bookshop. Listen, we don't get a salary, so I just get cool books every once in a while.
Yeah, that is a really cool one.
So this is actually the set that I had growing up. Like I can visually see this on my parents' bookshelf in the living room. And it was it's not this specific one, but like this this box set.
Yeah, that version.
And like these books that I have been reading, like these are the exact ones that my dad read to me when I was like 4 or something like that. So like it is a very, very fun read through. And I really like the art. I'm forgetting her name. There's a certain artist that has kind of the weird, if you don't have this thing.
I also know who you're talking about, but I don't remember her name.
I want to say Maggie Smith, but that's not right. That's an actress who played McGonagall. But here's like the art. It's just like very simple, clean lines, but it just like is very evocative. I really, really enjoy. So loving that quite a bit. What version are you reading in? I assume an ebook of some kind?
Yeah, I've been doing ebooks just from the library because they're easy to get. I've been like on the hunt for a version like that because I want to get like a nice vintage copy. But all the used bookstores just have that butt ugly Disney adaptation omnibus version.
Yep.
That is not it's not like aesthetic enough.
Is that the one with just the lion out front and it's black and it's just this big chonky guy?
Some of them have Tilda Swinton on it, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah.
And they like you that could work, but the design of it is just kind of ugly. So I've been keeping an eye out for those. But yeah, I've just been doing ebook. The version that I grew up with was I want to say it was a Scholastic version. And it had like a very uniform design for all of them.
Yeah, their color and kind of like not quite cartoony, but not like real life, right? I think I know the version you're talking about.
Yeah, those are the ones that I grew up with.
And those ones actually, interestingly, do the chronological version.
Yes, that is true.
Magician's Nephew first, and then go from there. So that's. We decided not to do that. If you didn't watch our intro video, my wife Anna is very against it, and so we got afraid and didn't do it. Well, I should say I got afraid. I don't know if Ridbook got afraid of Anna. I did.
No, I was intimidated. I was scared.
It's the right answer or the right response. Is there any, while we're waiting for people to jump on here, is there any book, like movie book tie-in that you actually like? Because the thing in the community is obviously like those are the worst kind of book covers. I have an answer to this if I need to vamp for a while, but there's one particular one that's very close to my heart.
You know, I'm sure there is, because they're not always terrible, but I can't think of one off the top of my head right now.
So these are very nostalgic for me. Because of some obvious reasons I show you, and that is the Lord of the Rings movie tie-ins.
Yeah.
These have, if you're out there, you can probably know, they have a very distinct smell. And these are, so I had to get a new Fellowship of the Ring because I just destroyed my first Fellowship of the Ring that I had in 5th grade. But these two books, these are the original, like Andy Smith in 2002 picked up these books, or 2003. And I still have them, and they are deeply, I just love them very deeply. And not just because of the nostalgia, although that is certainly a big part of it, is that it's subtle. Well, I shouldn't say it's subtle, but it's just like one picture, but like the vast majority of the front is, you know, like text of what is happening. It's still very clear, like the the name of the book. It also got this thing. It says part 3 even. So there's a lot of respect for the original thing. And once you're inside of it, like the layout is very Lord of the Ringsy, like how you would see. Like they're not putting pictures of Legolas, Orlando Bloom at the beginning of everything. I really like. Anyway, I just wanted to show
I
these off.
remember having a copy like that at some point. And I think it was of the Fellowship, because I remember seeing Frodo on it. And yeah, I agree. Those are like tasteful movie.
Even the spines, just a little picture, just so you know there's a movie. But like mostly, also I think these are very unique. The color palette is very unique, kind of this muted, like purple, grayish blue, and like a black. I don't know, very interesting. And again, they were the ones I first read, so there's a big part of that. Okay, I guess at some point we have to transition to Narnia, so we should do that here. Rid, thanks for joining me. We are on our second month of our Great Narnia read along. Someone asked in the chat, when will the No Life Forsaken chat begin? Well,
I'd rather be talking about No Life Forsaken.
I would so rather be talking about No Life Forsaken. This book rules. I'm only halfway through, but we will do that at some point. Oh no, Aslan is in the chat though, so he's gonna be pretty pissed that we're shitting on his book, and he'll probably be mad that I used the word shit, but oh well. Okay, so Narnia, we're on our second one, Prince Narnia. Let's talk overarching thoughts.
Prince Narnia.
Did I say Prince Narnia?
Yeah.
Prince Narnia, Caspian. aka Prince Caspian, aka the Telmarine. I don't know what I'm saying. Rid, what did you think of Prince Caspian?
This book was really an interesting digression from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think there are parts of this that I liked a lot more than The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And then there are other parts where I was like, this is a lot worse. So it's a little bit more polarizing, where I feel like the first book was a lot more just like sort of steady state. Like I was like, okay, I see where this is going. And like it was sort of how I remembered it mostly. I do want to give a shout out to a Goodreads review that I saw from Barry Pierce, who is a OG booktuber who many people might not know, but Barry Pierce is an OG booktuber who like completely wiped his platform and does not associate with booktube anymore. But I remember watching his videos, and he has the funniest Goodreads review of Prince Caspian, where he's like, this is just Hamlet with badgers, with talking badgers. And he's not wrong. It is just Hamlet with talking badgers. It's just worse Walmart version Hamlet. But that sounds mean.
Wait, so is Edmund Hamlet? Like he's
I think Prince Caspian
dealing with existentialism? Oh, sorry.
Prince Caspian is Hamlet.
Oh, this one. I was thinking Lion, Witch, Wardrobe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because it's an uncle. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Without any of the women characters, though. Get rid of them.
Yeah, we don't need women.
Oh, jeez. What did you give it on Goodreads? Did you give it a star rating?
I haven't been giving them star ratings.
Howard's way out, Red.
I know. I would probably give it 2 stars.
I, a courageous person, did give it 2 stars on Goodreads and publicly said that I think this book is kind of shitty. And I think in many ways, the Hamlet thing is a good call. I also think it's like a redo of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe with less interesting parts.
Yeah.
Like the 4 kids go into Narnia, kind of confused about Narnia. Then some magical creature finds them, sort of gives them the lay of the land. They walk for a little while. Aslan finds them. Aslan saves the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like the added component is like Prince Caspian. And actually the most interesting parts I thought was like the beginning, like when Trumpkin is telling them about, it's kind of funny. We're not even hearing it, immediately in one of our characters, but like his growing up or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was not enthralled. And I thought, especially kind of what we talked about in Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe, the like subtle sexism of Lewis is really ramped up in this book. In fact, the video I recorded that is not out yet, that will be out, I guess, in like over a week or so, because I have to do my TBR videos and such, but it will be out eventually. I just go over that part of it because I think that's much more interesting than the book of like how prevalent it is in this book. And I'll talk about a couple scenarios specifically, but honestly, for me, that was the most interesting. Most of it was pretty blah.
Yeah. Well, you kind of nailed the like whatever that phrase is. Nailed the nail on the head.
Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not nailed the nail.
Well, you nailed the nail on the head there with your description of the plot, where it's
Rid, you
just
have such a way with words.
thank you. Uh, they're just like walking through the forest, and it's the most uncharming dialogue I've ever read in my life. When the Pevensies are just complaining about having to walk through the forest, and they're like bickering and fighting with each other, and I'm just sitting there reading this like, am I supposed to be like, are we supposed to be reading this right now? Like, what's the moral of the story? Is that these kids are annoying? And like, at least in the first book, I felt like the Pevensies were at least a little bit charming, where they're like playing in the snow, and like they have this sort of like rapport, I guess, as siblings. But in this book, I was like, everyone is so annoying. And I found even Lucy annoying, because she's like, I don't know. I just found all of them annoying. I was like, you guys have already done this where you don't listen to Lucy and she's always correct. And I like, like Lucy's like crying. Edmund is like trying to help her. Peter's being a dick. Susan's being like weird and like has like honor period, I guess. Like, I don't know, like what is happening? The parts of this book that I really did like were the parts that were like you said about Caspian. I think Caspian is so much more charming compared to the Pevensies in this book. And also, I appreciate that we get a little bit more character development for a lot of the animals, like Trumpkin, and I forget the centaur's name, but the animals get to be a little bit more of a front seat here, and the dwarves as well. So I liked those parts. Those were my favorite parts.
Trumpkin, Nickabrick. What was the badger's name? The cool badger. I liked him. I'm sad I'm forgetting his name. I'll find it. Dr. Cornelius, the half dwarf.
Dr. Cornelius is a legend.
Pretty awesome.
Also, I have to say
Reepicheep, the honorable mouse. Gotta love that.
This is not his best book, though.
Truffle Hunter.
Oh, yes, Truffle Hunter.
It's an easy name to
remember. Great name.
In the chat, apparently Fish has a song called Prince Caspian. Not sure how the lyrics relate to the book. They take the simple song to some interesting musical places, though. Didn't know that. There we go.
Interesting.
Now I'm looking up the lyrics.
While you're looking up the lyrics, I do want to say that I watched like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and I think the movie actually improves upon the story of Prince Caspian in at least in the beginning that I watched, because they begin with Prince Caspian fleeing from the castle from his uncle. And that scene is so filled with tension and charged with like, just like the tension of Prince Caspian having to flee from his home, and the fact that his uncle is this like devious, king trying to like steal his throne. And I'd be curious to rewatch the entire movie, because I think, Javi, I think the movie might be better than the book.
Well, and Javi might know this because, Rid, you said you didn't watch the whole movie. I didn't watch any of the movie, so no shade. I think, this is way back memory, don't they switch it in the movie that Prince Caspian is actually the one who does the duel, not Peter at the end, which makes so much more sense?
I don't think so. I think Caspian does the duel. Or not Caspian. I think
Peter does the duel?
Edmund does the duel.
No, Peter does the duel. Edmund is
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Javi, let us know in the comments if you remember. I do. Speaking of the kids, just like at their journey, like it does. Those podcasts where like they have like their bits, and there's like a sound effect, like a soundboard, and every once in a while when someone says something, like they hit that button. That like every time the kids were talking to each other, it was like, yeah, we got these 4 bits. Let's hit Peter does something noble but in a dickish way button. Okay, Edmund's cranky but also like trying to show that he's better than in the first book. Susan is just being like the prototypical motherly, like overly cautious, cranky, what you said, but I'm not going to say. And then like Lucy, always going to be right, but timid. Like it's like over and over and like every like, okay, they're talking about apples. Okay. Peter says, "Good, we have apples. Eat them up, idiots." Susan's like, "Oh, it's not nutritious." Edmund, like it's like every single thing just does that. Okay, Javi has confirmed that Peter does the duel in the movie, so I was wrong.
Yeah, I think, yeah. The movie, yeah. Also, Ben Barnes is in the movie, and Ben Barnes is just like was childhood me's crush. So gotta give it up for him.
That's fair. Was that one of the first childhood crushes on screen? The Sexual Awakening.
Yeah, I would say so. Honestly,
mine was Emma Watson, Hermione Granger, and Prisoner of Azkaban. I think I've talked about this on lives before. Her pink jumper, pitter patter, be still my heart.
Yeah. Yeah, Prince Caspian.
Good transition. Okay, let's talk about the actual. Let's kind of go step by step through this. First, let's talk about the entrance into Narnia. We talked about this on the Discord, and by the way, if you're on this read along and you're not in the Discord, you're missing stuff. Because we didn't talk as much in Prince Caspian. I think everyone kind of like did not like this as much as Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But we are talking about it on my Discord. There's probably an invite. I'm maybe in the description or in the description somewhere else, but you should join. I thought this entrance into Narnia was like super lazy. What do you remember what it is without looking it up?
Yeah, they just are on the train and then they're in Narnia. And it's not even that like, I think they're like not even on the train yet. They're like in the railway station, and then they just like a bunch of stuff happens and they're like all of a sudden they're in Narnia. And it's again one of those things where the children are so passive to the point where they never have to seek out Narnia. They just kind of go there and show up, and it's their presence really that's the only thing that is required of them, because basically once they show up into Narnia, Aslan comes and fixes everything. So it's like they're not like seeking out Narnia. They've completely forgotten about it. And then you find out later that it's Prince Caspian blowing Susan's horn that sort of calls them to Narnia. Or not Susan. Is it Susan's horn?
It is Susan's horn. Susan's horn. The sentence you just said was pretty
Listen,
good.
That's what it is, okay?
Knowing your thoughts on Prince Caspian, it takes on new layers.
And like finding out that it was the horn that calls them to Narnia is cool, and I will always be a fan of fantasy horns as a Wheel of Time fan. I do love that trope. But
why don't I was like the children don't even hear a horn at the beginning. Like there's like very obvious like mystery stuff you could have, like the train's whistle. All of a sudden it sounded like a horn, and then they
like the transition.
But there's nothing. It's just like they feel pressure, and then all of a sudden they're in a wood. I think is basically what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. I don't remember exactly how the movie does it, but because the movie starts with Caspian's flight from the castle, and then it shows you the kids, I feel like there's more of like a forward momentum to the movie, because like the children are on the train, and it just the structure works a lot better. I felt like the structure of this book was sort of lazy, where like Lewis will just be like, and then this happened, and then when the dwarf is telling the story of Prince Caspian, he like explains like, and now I'm going to tell you the story, but I'm going to edit it a little bit because it's like not exactly how he tells it. And I was like, we could have been a little more creative with the structure here.
It really feels like a sequel that like a publisher was like, hey, we should get a sequel. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe did really, really well. And the author was like, I don't really want to do one. I'm interested in other stuff, but like, this is what pays my bills. Like, I don't think that's what it was. I don't really know like the historical thing of it. And just so everyone knows, if you haven't read, this is your first time through Narnia, the rest of the books are better. Like this is not the quality of the rest of the sequels at all. In fact, this might be my least favorite. We'll see. I haven't read Last Battle in a while, but I think this certainly is my least favorite so far. Yeah, it just feels like, okay, they go into Narnia. Okay, they, whatever. They meet Aslan. Like, it's just like a redux, very kind of lazily done. But I will say to some positive stuff, because I do agree with Mac here that for a little while, when the kids are on their own, and they're kind of having to survive, and they figure out this is Cair Paravel, and they're putting this together, and there's no help for them. That's really, especially some of my criticisms of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is like the kids are so passive. Here at the beginning of the book, they're quite active. They find themselves on this island. They don't know what to do. There's no direction, and so they kind of have to like figure this out. And I do kind of like the aspect of this story where Lewis kind of has the idea of like the more that they're in Narnia, the more of their old sort of nature sort of rubs off on them, and they become more kingly and more queenly or like noble. And I think that's a fun aspect to kind of fill in sort of the gaps, both of like the weirdness of like they were kings and queens for like 20 years and then they become children again in our world. And like why they're able to do some of the stuff in Narnia that they're not here. Like there's some magical aspect to it. I think that's fun. And as they're slowly sort of realizing it, I think that's a good chapter for me.
Yeah, and I really like the scene where after they've met Trumpkin. Is he the Trumpkin
I think
is the
something that's
dwarf
working.
that follows that finds them, and they have the little competition
Yeah.
with Trumpkin where they're just beating his ass at archery and swords, like fencing. That was a fun chapter, and I found the Pevensies to be charming in that, at least.
Yeah, that's a great word for it. That chapter had charm, which so much of Lion the Witch Wardrobe is chock full of
Mhm.
charm. Like the way she enters the wardrobe is charming. Mr. Tumnus is charming. The tea that they have is charming. Like all of this is just like it just kind of has like this light feel, and there's like nothing of that in Prince Cat. I shouldn't say nothing. There's much less of that, but
Mhm.
that instance where they're just like having these fun archery contests is kind of fun. I
I
do
think
like.
there's Oh,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was just yeah. Okay. No, you go ahead. Okay, no, you go. Okay. I was just going to say that I think that Prince Caspian has less of a plot than Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, and that really
Yeah.
becomes apparent in that extended like forest hiking scene where the children are bickering back and forth. And I think that middle being so slow really drags down the rest of the book.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Because the only thing I was going to say, by the way, to fill in what I missed is I do like, because Lewis struggles with the fact that like there's a lot of violence in this book, but he doesn't want it to be a violent book, that Susan just like hits someone in the head with an arrow like to save Trumpkin. Like that's what
Yeah.
happens. And
Yeah.
then like later on it's like luckily the guy didn't die. And it's like, wait, what? She hit him in the head with an arrow and he's fine.
It's also like it's not super clear. So later on when the children finally arrive and Peter like saves Caspian from the hag character and the werewolf, it's not super clear whether or not he kills the hag and the werewolf or whether or not he just like knocks him out. And it yeah, like you said, it's like the level of violence is like not commensurate with the things that are happening.
Yeah, like I think the lights in that scene actually like go out. It's like a cartoon where like the lights go out and there's like a puff
Yeah, it fades to
of
black.
dust, and then
Yeah.
at the end, like the bad guys are all tied up and Batman's just there or something. I don't know. It's very comedic how he tries to have like a violent story. Like there's battles in this without
Mhm.
having the violence, as compared to something like I'm thinking of other like kids books. Like obviously the Hunger Games has some violence in it, but even like Aragon, like there's like actual like violence that takes place. I don't know. It's an interesting tension.
Mhm.
Okay, we're now at they save the dwarf, and then the dwarf tells him of Prince Caspian. So let's walk through Prince Caspian's life, the early scenes of Hamlet, and Dr. Cornelius. What jumps out at you from these chapters?
I think this is the first time, well, not the first time, but I really liked the way that Lewis sort of creates this mythos of around the children and like the old age of Narnia and the nurse telling him the stories of Narnia.
Mm-hmm.
I just really liked Prince Caspian as a character. I think he is sort of like a prototypical fantasy hero, and he has this like innocence to him that is really sweet, and he doesn't understand like the political machinations behind his uncle, and his uncle like sort of wanting the throne and all of this. So I just yeah, I liked it. It's a fairly simple story, and again, it's like very similar to Hamlet in its conception and like structure, but it was sweet. I liked it.
Can I tell you a fact that I forgot till I opened to this page? It's the first part of chapter 4, The Dwarf Tales of Prince Caspian. Do you remember what the queen's name is? This is
It's
some.
like Prenusmia or
I
something.
can't believe you remember that. That's so impressive. Like 10 reading points to you. Yeah. Her name is Pruna Prismia, which basically is like Greek for like ultimate prune. It's Pruna
Oh my
and
God.
then Prismia. Like Prismia is like the prime, like first, and Pruna. So it's just
Wow.
like,
I just
or
remember that because I
Pruna
was
might
like,
be like withered, but like it's a pretty, for a classics professor, which I think Lewis was, it's a pretty good dig.
yeah, no, I remember that name because I was like, this is a ridiculous name.
And she doesn't name many people. It's like Miraz is the king, and then Queen Pruna Prismia, and I don't think he comes back to it. I just think that's some good. That's some good. Like kids don't know that, but the adults reading will laugh.
Yeah, and the way he describes it, I think he sketches out the conflict between them pretty economically. I think he has a line about Pruna Prismia not liking Caspian very much. And I think
Mm.
that, sets up that classic fantasy tension that I mean it's present in like the Assassin's Apprentice trilogy by Hobb, where it's like, what's her name? Divine? No.
Oh,
Regal's mom
yeah,
doesn't
Regal.
like Fitz.
We should know this.
It's gonna come to me after this stream. But it's a classic fantasy setup of, the true king and the would be pretender family who's trying to like manipulate things into their own favor.
I'm getting lost because I'm trying to find desire.
Desire. I knew it
Desire.
was a D
Yeah,
word.
you're very close. I just want to, because I talked about the great illustration. So this is Dr. Cornelius in the illustration. I just think this is a great, like simple but
Exactly
like
how I pictured him.
fantastic, just like simple sketch of it that I love really much, very much. So Caspian runs because he's Hamlet and he's the real heir, but the uncle wants the throne, and so they run. He runs into all the cool Narnia beasts, and we find out that some of them have stopped talking, and sort of magic seems to be fading from Narnia. For some reason, we meet Reepicheep, Truffle Hunter, Trumpkin, and Nickabrick. Very fun, and some other characters. I kind of like this again. This is sort of the more lighthearted, fun part of the book where he's just meeting these cool people. They're like going around to different trees and underground to meet the dwarves. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on some of these scenes?
I think Caspian describes this as like some of his happiest days that he'd
Yeah.
ever had. And that comes through a lot. Like you can tell he's really thriving in this environment where he's just sort of like hanging out with these talking animals and learning in some ways to be a king. He's starting to like have these councils where they're giving him advice and acting as his advisors. And I really liked that. Something that I pick up on as an adult reading these parts is how prescriptive C.S. Lewis is um, about like the species of the animals, where
Yes.
he's like, "Oh, I'm a badger, and my job is to remember the the history of Narnia and how it's very much like each species and each like the centaurs are like look to the stars and look to the future and like how prescriptive he is based on your like sort of species determining your roles in life, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And it's a kid's book, so I'm not gonna like read too deeply into it, but I did notice that. And yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I was going to bring that up. And there is even some aspect, and this is a little bit from Lion with Georgia as well, of like there are some species that are just evil, and there are some that are good, and then there's like prescribed roles. Like the mice are blessed because they helped Aslan that one time, sort of as a species, and that's when they started talking. That's
Hmm.
sort of towards the end, and then there's also weird stuff about the dwarves.
Hmm.
which is like they could be good, they could be bad, and like obviously Nickabrick talks a lot about how like under the White Witch she liked the dwarves and worked for them, and maybe not so much against Aslan. And I think we're supposed to take that as like not the right thing, but like but Aslan is very like specific about certain like hierarchies of being in some ways. And
Mhm.
part of this is also I feel very uncomfortable with like there has to be a son of Adam or a daughter of Eve that is ruling over
Yes.
Narnia.
Yeah.
There's some very weird talk there, which like in Christian like mythology, obviously like humans are created very specifically to like rule over the beasts and like nature and like do so like with care. So I think that's probably what is being hearkened to by Lewis. But when the animals like basically have souls and can talk and are like constantly,
They're
it's like
people.
it takes on a very different odd thing, especially coming again from a 20th century Englishman. It feels weird.
Yeah, definitely. There's even a line that I think the Badger says where he's like, there's a line about like a son of Adam being the king, and he's like, well, that's just how it is, and like that's the right thing, and it's like that's accepted. That's like there's no reasoning. It's just like that's how it is. It's like
Yeah.
very like traditionalist appeal, a trivial appeal to tradition. Um, yeah, I did notice that a lot in this book.
And there's this, it's not strong, but anytime you're dealing with dwarves in fantasy, it's a little as a reader, as a modern reader, I'm paying close attention because obviously we know that there's a lot of like Jewish stereotypes that some authors prescribe to dwarves. Now, Lewis doesn't seem to get into some of those, but it is just like when that sort of fantasy race is dealt with very particularly, it's just like kind of iffy. And not, I shouldn't say, because I don't think in this work he stumbles into that, but it just adds another layer to all of this like very clear like role-ness that is like each thing has its role that is uncomfortable, I think, from a modern reader's perspective.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the son of Adam thing, we learn in this book that the Telmarines were descended from this group of pirates that like
Yeah.
come across this like random island in the Pacific and they stumble into Narnia. This was one of the things that I actually really liked about this book
Yeah.
because the portal fantasy aspect of Narnia is something that's always I've always been drawn to, and I think it's part of what makes Narnia work is this feeling of like there are places in earth on this earth that you could stumble into
Mm-hmm.
and pass into Narnia. And I think when Lewis leans on that, it's when Narnia is at its best. And so we find out that Narnia is, or the Telmarines are the descendants of these pirates who um have a really like they're not good pirates. And I think there's a line where oh man, I wish I could remember it off the top of my head where um Caspian is reflecting on how he wishes that he were descended from like better people, and
Mm-hmm.
that he's like sort of lamenting the fact that his lineage is from these pirates who are sort of bad people, and he wishes that they were more honorable. And there's a really great line that I think encompasses why oh man, I wish I could find it
I
now.
have it if you want
Oh,
me to
get
read
it.
it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I also bookmarked this. So Aslan tells Caspian about this. This is on in the chapter. Aslan makes a door in the air, 211 in my edition. Do you mark all this well, King Caspian? I do indeed, sir, said Caspian. I was wishing that I came of a more honorable lineage. You come of the Lord Adam and the Lady Eve, said Aslan, and that is both honor enough to erect the head of the poorest beggar and shame enough to
Yes.
bow the shoulders of the greatest emperor in earth. Be content.
Yeah,
That's a
I
great line.
love that.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. And it's a I don't know, maybe not fair to say rare, but I think it's a rare moment where there is a little bit of grayness in the morality of Narnia. I feel like generally Lewis presents a situation and he will often just tell you the reader or the child who's supposed to be reading this like this is the right thing to do, and it's
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't go much into like why, or the reasoning behind
Yeah.
why choice A is good and choice B is evil. But this is one of the situations where I think he allows for a little bit of nuance, grayness to the world.
Yeah, and just not like an inherently good or inherently bad character. Because Prince
Mhm.
Caspian, like, is like, we're told a lot he's like the rightful king of Narnia, but like, no, he's not. The Telmarines, like, like conquered
Mhm.
Narnia. Like, that's the whole thing. That's why they want to get rid of them. And
Mhm.
he's a Telmarine. Like, it's not just because he, knew the story of old Narnia and he, is kind or whatever, doesn't change that fact of his lineage. And yet, his actions can, I don't know if I'd use the word term redeem, but like can allow him to be a force for good. And I think the larger sense of like humanity as a whole, right, is that we have capacity for great evil and great good, great failure and great triumph. And it's, I like that you pointed that out. I think it's a beautiful line.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's what I meant earlier when I was like, there are things in this book that I liked more than I liked in Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe. And then there's things that I was like, this is bad. This is worse than
Yeah.
Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe.
Yeah. From my last read through, my favorite book I think is Magician's Nephew, where that like worlds touching each other is the most explored by Lewis, and it
Mhm.
rules. So I'm very excited to get to that.
What's
Okay,
the
so
Is
go
that the
ahead.
next book?
No. We're at Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Oh, okay. I don't For some reason I thought that was like towards the end. That's
Um,
exciting.
yeah. So here I can show you in my cool little things because they have little numbers. So
Mhm.
I don't know if the resolution is high enough that everyone. So one is Lion the Witch Wardrobe, then
Mhm.
Prince Caspian,
Silver chair.
Voyage of the
Okay.
Dawn Treader, Silver Chair, The Horse and His Boy, then Magician's Nephew, then Last Battle.
Oh,
Our
so we have a while to go before the Magician's
Magician's
Nephew.
Nephew is the second to last in the original publication order.
Wow.
Go ahead.
I wonder how much C.S. Lewis had sketched out of this world at this point, because I feel like, based on what I read when I read the first book, I read a bunch of articles about C.S. Lewis. He was kind of writing these by the seat of his pants. Like he wasn't taking this as seriously as some of his other work that was written for adults. I think he was very much writing this as like children's books. Like it's,
Yeah.
not
Just for fun.
yeah, they're for fun, and he didn't really put a lot of thought into the mythos, and I wonder if that's why, like, The Magician's Nephew is really about, like, the conception of Narnia and, like, the world building, and I wonder if how much of that he even knew at this point writing Prince Caspian.
Yeah, I have to. I would think not. Just the way that they're told, I imagine he's just kind of like, "This is a fun idea."
Yeah,
Um,
like, he'll just bring in Bacchus and Silenus,
yeah,
who are, like, Greek
yeah.
gods.
Why don't we,
um
let's just throw Santa Claus in there? Sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a very much a hodgepodge of things.
Okay, so we've gone all over the place, but let's mostly skip the kids crankily going through the forest. But I want to highlight three things from that section. First of all, this certainly wasn't the case, but I guess Edmund one time calls Trumpkin "dear little friend" as a joke,
Yes.
and so they start calling him in the book DLF,
That was so
which
weird.
I read every time as DILF as I read this book.
Yeah, it's that's fair. I listened to the audiobook, but I was like, DLF, that's weird.
Dwarf I'd like to fawn over. I literally like could not get over that. Every once in a while they would do it again. I'd be like, come on, this is not a serious book. Secondly, other thing I want to emphasize is there's a great moment where Lucy, as always, is right, and everyone else is like, no, you're wrong. And Edmund is like, you know what? I was wrong last time. I'm with Lucy. I vote with Lucy. Which
Character development.
loved that. He even does. I also do like that Lewis like specifically says at one point, like he was trying to back Lucy up, but he was cranky because he was hungry. Because like he's still Edmund, but he's
Yeah.
like trying to do better. I thought that was good. And then on a more serious note, so the way that this whole trudge through the wood ends is that Aslan finds them. But then for some reason, Aslan, instead of just like going up and being like, hey guys, let me help you find the way through, he like secretly shows himself to Lucy, and like tests Lucy because she's supposed to like stand up to her brothers and sisters, even though in other parts of the book she's told to like obey. It's very, again, coming from like a conservative Christian thing, like this like weird authority and testing is like a thing that happens. But there's one particular place, speaking of like gender roles, that I thought was like, I read and was like, oh my God, I forgot from my last reading. So this is when Lucy first like hears Aslan, or secondly, so she sees Aslan, no one believes them, and then at night she goes and actually talks to Aslan. It starts like this: they dropped off to sleep one by one, but all pretty quickly. This is in the chapter The Return of the Lion. Lucy woke out of the deepest sleep you can imagine, with the feeling that the voice she liked best in the world had been calling her name. She thought at first it was her father's voice, but that did not seem quite right. Then she thought it was Peter's voice, but that did not seem to fit either. She did not want to get up, not because she was tired. On the contrary, she was wonderfully rested, but because she felt so extremely happy and comfortable. And then eventually, Lucy came the call again. It wasn't her father's voice, nor Peter's. Of course, it's Aslan's voice. Eventually. And so why that like caught my eyes, like again, sort of in very conservative Christian circles, there's this idea of like the hierarchy of authority, specifically like in the family and then in society as a whole, that like God is at the top of that, right? Like a male version of God. And then the man is the head of his household. And then like, like the
eldest son,
the firstborn son is kind of like the steward of it. And like in this moment, Lucy is supposed to hear like the best thing that she likes, or the voice she loves best. And she thinks first that it's her father, again, that like authority figure, then maybe her older brother, who's like the authority figure. And then ultimately it's like the ultimate authority figure, which is like this male savior, God character.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
And the Holy Peter. And there's like the whole idea of like this Christian idea is like that society will be at its most content, most perfect when like this hierarchy is respected. And like there's this idea of like Lucy is content and happy if she's in the hierarchy. And I just like really was like, oh, no, thank you, Lewis. Did you catch that in reading?
I did not catch that part, but I guess I noticed when Trumpkin was like, well, I'm going to listen to Peter because he's the High King and his authority is like the most important. And I'm not going to like respect, or, I'm not going to listen to what anyone else has to say. I'm just going to do what Peter tells me to do. Which of course actually leads them down the wrong path.
Yep.
Which maybe
I have that one too, because I put a finger on it because it's another thing I noticed. Because it's Susan who says, suppose I start being like Lucy and I might threaten to just stay here and the rest of you are not. I jolly well think I will, which is a good point. I know everyone hates Susan in this book, but it's like, yeah, Lucy's just saying like, I'm going to go off by myself. Like, that's like, we need to make a group decision. And then Trumpkin just says, obey the High King, your majesty, and let's be off.
Yeah. Like, shut up and listen to your dad, like your man.
Your brother daddy.
Yeah. Your brother daddy. Oh, yeah.
Listen to the DILF who says, follow your brother daddy. We felt in some weird places. Okay, so eventually they stumble upon Prince Caspian at Aslan's How, which is the place where the stone table is now, like in this weird kind of underground area. Have you? I don't actually know this like geographic term. What's a how?
I have no idea.
Okay, because we've read a lot of fantasy between us, a lot of descriptions of land. I've never heard of something be called a how.
Is it like, I couldn't tell, is it like a cave?
It's like a cave in a hill, right? Because it's supposed to be where the like stone table was, and then they put a mound on it. I just have never heard like the term how, what that means.
I think you're right. A natural or human-made element on the Earth's surface, such as a mountain, river, lake, or city that shapes the landscape and influences. Okay, AI overview is giving me the most generic description of that could be literally anything.
But it is like a thing. Like they immediately like, oh yeah, I know what a how is.
Well, AI, it could be hallucinating. Okay, I'm not getting anything when I look up what is a geographical feature how.
Again, like we're in a genre where geographical features are talked about all the time. It's just interesting that like we haven't heard of it. Anyway, they go there, and then Aslan's like, all right, women, you go off into the forest and hang out for a little while. You two men go take care of what's happening in there, and that's when we get this confrontation between the bad dwarves, a werewolf, a hag, and the ghost of the White Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on this? We already talked about it a little bit, but thoughts on this confrontation? It's one of the few confrontations in the book, really.
Yeah. I thought it was like it was one of the moments where it was actually kind of creepy, where the hag and the werewolf are in the room and they're all kind of like discussing their battle plans, and then she like starts talking and is like, I am that which knows all evil, or like I
Mm-hmm.
hex things and I know how to like curse things. And you're immediately like, whoa, this is like so in opposition to like happy fairy Narnia land.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually like I genuinely liked the tension in that scene a lot. And it was cool to see the White Witch return, and the menace of her as like this immortal weakened version of herself.
Yeah, no, and that darkness again, like there's some aspects that are good in this that get me excited for future books. Because
Hmm.
another one I really like is the Silver Chair, because it's probably the darkest as far as like the underworld and spirits and like these dark forces that are trying to influence the world. Like they really go into that in that book, and this is like just a hint of that in this book that I think like shows promise for later, as we've been saying. But like I wish there was more of in this book. 'Cause it's figured out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Bible, so I'm curious about this comment from Javi.
Yeah, so in the after the resurrection, right? So
Hmm.
Jesus is killed on a Friday, comes back on a Sunday, and he first appears to Mary Magdalene, and then several other women who like tell the disciples, and the disciples for a long time don't see Jesus, and so it is that like the women see Jesus first. So I'm sure that's what kind of Lewis is alluding to, and part
Yeah,
of that is,
Susan doesn't see him.
of course, not Susan. It's
Yeah.
that
Lewis just
bitch.
hates Susan for some reason.
I think there's literally a sentence that is like Susan is the worst.
Yeah. Why? Like he's so mean to her. And this tangent, but this reminds me of the way that Michael Crichton writes the young girl in Jurassic Park, where
Mm,
she's just like the most annoying character ever, and I'm like, you're just telling on yourselves. The way that you view young girls is like so horrible. It's like why she's just a teenager, you know?
yeah,
Like,
I've not read the actual Jurassic Park, but I've heard that as well from several people that like,
yeah,
yeah,
it's not
not
good.
pretty well. Well, I think so. Also, based on what Javi says, I think this is interesting. So, obviously, in the scripture, in the Bible, it's interesting because in that culture, absolutely, like women weren't allowed to testify in Roman court. So, like
Hmm.
the word of women were really like um, dishonored, so to speak. And so, in some ways, I think that's kind of a cool part of that story is that like Jesus values that opinion much more than the society does. I think if you're still using that, almost 2,000 years later, I think it's sort of a negative reflection on the society that was happening there.
Yeah.
So yeah, as we said, there's this big dust cloud because the lights go out, and then at the end of it, the werewolf and hag and Nickabrick are either dead or incapacitated or in some ways not able to do what they were doing. It's unclear. And that's kind of unsatisfying. But that's the end of it. And then
Hmm.
there's this trial by combat that they bait the Telmarines into. Kind of. It's also like some scheming nobles on the other side, which feels a little cop out that all of a sudden there's these two nobles that like caused
Who
all this to happen.
conveniently are the ones who actually kill Miraz
Correct.
so that Peter can maintain his moral high ground.
Correct. They stab him literally in the back, and that's how Peter wins. There is this very touching moment where like the battle's not going well, and it seems like Peter might die, and
Hmm.
Edmund like says goodbye to him. I found that like pretty touching, and I knew that he wasn't going to die, but it was still like, oh wow, this is like much more stakes than there have been in the rest of this book, where like one of our human, like from our world characters, is going to die in a duel.
Mhm.
I thought that was good. But then they defeat them, of course, and then the Telmarines still attack, and that's when Aslan and his army of trees, kind of stealing from Tolkien there, C.S. Lewis, are able to defeat the orcs. I mean the Telmarines, and then they like frolic through the hillside, invading schools and liberating people through the countryside, and that's the end of the book.
Yeah, the ending there was where I was like, okay, this is getting off the rails now. Like it was an interesting ending, and like where Aslan is coming through and like healing a bunch of people. And this is the question that I always have with Narnia, is that Aslan could have done this
Mm-hmm.
this whole time. Like he chose to leave, and like, you know, this gets into just religion in general and like free will and God, and like how is there evil when God exists. I know that like what I'm talking about here is like tied to a larger conversation, but it always just bothers me about the logic of Narnia, where the animals are fine with their place in the world and they don't like have any sort of resentment towards the Pevensies or Aslan, for being like, hey, like you abandoned us for centuries, and
Mm-hmm.
like we've been, you know, kind of like persecuted again. We were persecuted by the White Witch, now we were persecuted by the Telmarines, and then you kind of just come by and like clearly you're so powerful, and like you could have been doing something about this the whole time. And it's like, okay, I that has always bothered me. I think even
Yeah.
as a kid I was reading this and feeling like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and I think it's like it's a real weakness and difficult question. And part of that is like what we went kind of going back to some other stuff we talked about, is like because the heroes are also really inactive. Like some stories, especially where there's a great powers, like there's always a part of that question, and that's part of existence of like if there is some other more powerful being or beings, why aren't they more active in our world? But usually that is mixed with like heroic deeds, and there's a sense of like we don't know, but we have to, you know, do the best we can with the circumstances we have, try to do justice, try to do good.
Mhm.
But like because the kids are mostly inactive in the books, and really every aspect of the victory is done by Aslan or like Aslan adjacent, it's really apparent in these
Mhm.
early books. Again, I think actually later books do this much better,
Yeah,
where
I'm
Aslan
curious
isn't.
if it'll
Yeah.
answer that question I'm having in later books.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't answer the question because that question can't be answered, right? It is like, why is our world like this if there are,
Mhm.
you know, these all good things? But there's more of like the characters make choices that cause positive things. Like I'm really Voyage of the Dawn Treader has a couple of great moments of that, and so does Silverchair and Horse and His Boy and Magician's Nephew. All of them I think are better than this one.
Yeah, I'm excited to get on to the rest of the series. I will say that even though Prince Caspian I had its, you know, had its like duller moments, I've been really enjoying reading through these books, and I don't know, it's just fun to like contextualize fantasy as a genre. And I'm enjoying like learning about Christian mythology because I think it's so influential in general on like Western thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like this is absolutely a fantasy novel, right? Like he's playing with so many fantastical ideas, and we haven't even gotten to like I do feel like starting with Voyage of the Dawn Treader kind of Lewis's fantastical and imagination like lets loose of the reins and kind of just
Mhm.
goes, because like weird stuff happens in the rest of these books, and I'm really excited to get to them. But it absolutely is part of the fantasy genre, and I think like is worth reading. It kind of sounds silly, but like especially like I just think they haven't been noticed a lot in the fantasy community, and I think like you should read these. They're good. They're good children's tales, and they're also so easy to read. I mean, like
Yeah.
I'm not like reading them in the same way I read other books, where like I'll just pick up a chapter and read it before bed, and it's so easy, and you get a lot of like whimsy. I don't know. They're very easy to read, very easy on the eyes.
Yeah, I did audiobook for this. I read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I think I'm going to continue doing audiobook for the rest of them because it's just, especially now that it's fall in New England, listening to Narnia while I'm driving, so nice.
Sounds
Good
magical.
vibes.
And a good audiobook narrator, I assume.
Yeah, she's great. It's a Lynn Redgrave, British actress, did a great job.
Ooh, love that. All right, that's the end of Prince Caspian. Any closing thoughts?
No, Hamlet with talking badgers.
Hamlet with talking badgers and a little bit of patriarchy. Okay, so next month we are reading The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is a completely different tale. If you have not read this before out there, it is a voyage that certain people are taking. Prince Caspian, I think, is part of it, if I remember correctly. A voyage to try to get to the end of the world. And that's it. And it's just like a bunch of crazy adventures that they go on. There's a great new character called Eustace that goes through like a great character growth. After the lame entering of Narnia in this book, it's one of the best portals in any portal fantasy I've ever read. Happens in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're somewhat discouraged about Prince Caspian or feeling tired with this read along, give it one more go, because I think Voyage will really, really get you back into it. I think it's the best one we've read so far. I like it more than both Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and definitely Prince Caspian.
Excited.
Yeah, so we will. We haven't talked about this, but I assume we'll do the Saturday after Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving. We should have talked about this before. We're now live.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. And we'll be talking then. Are you gonna drop anything on Prince Caspian on your channel? I have like I said, I'm doing like sort of broadly sexism in C.S. Lewis because I think that'll be an interesting video, but not specifically on Prince Caspian. I'll mention it on my wrap up, but I think that's it. Anything from you?
Not yet. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait until we finished all of the books and then do a full series review.
It's gonna be so good, guys. Looking forward to that. As always, have an enjoyable November. Enjoy the fall in New England, Rid. Thanks for another great live.
Thank you, Andy. See y'all later.
Bye, everybody. Happy reading.